Hello, I'm Melissa O'Shea, and this is the Sleep and Relax Show. I'm a holistic sleep consultant with the Sleep Easy Club, and today I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism and worrying. So if you're a perfectionist or a worrier, or if you love a perfectionist or worrier or have one in your life, then this is for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about perfectionism, and then we're going to do a meditation about loving and accepting yourself. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm speaking from personal experience of being a reformed perfectionist myself, and also from experience with working with lots of clients who are perfectionists or who just really care and sometimes find it difficult to switch off. So they'll worry about things that have happened that they could have done differently. They'll feel guilty. They'll actually just feel really hard on themselves. And when we do this at night before we go to sleep, then it's really not conducive to actually falling asleep, or if we do it in the middle of the night when we wake up. And so being a perfectionist, being a worrier, can actually lead you into having sleep problems. And the other part of it is that it has a huge stress effect on our body. Now, I experienced this myself because I was a perfectionist, tried to make everything that I did as perfect as possible, which is impossible, and eventually made myself sick over it and had to learn the hard way that it's just not a sustainable, healthy way to be. And often with my clients, they are having trouble sleeping, partly due to this perfectionism, this need for control and the worry, but also they often get other health problems as well. So if you are a perfectionist or a worrier, or you know one, or maybe your child is a perfectionist, maybe your partner, maybe a friend, it's really great if you can help them to recognize, either for yourself or for them, that it's not a good way to be. And that's really the first step. So I'm going to ask you just to take my word on that and just suspend your disbelief for today. I remember back when I was really a perfectionist, and a friend of mine said, you know what, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And I was like, what the hell? How is that possible? He said, no, my psychologist told me that you cannot give 100% to everything. And if you try, it's just a recipe for burnout and disaster. And I was like, no way, I just could not accept that. And it took me to actually have burnout and disaster until I accepted it. So I'm hoping to be able to intercept that before you get to burnout. But even if you are at burnout, it's still a really important lesson to learn that we can't do everything perfectly, and there's actually nothing. Perfection is an impossible standard. You cannot have perfection, but we can do our best at some things, and we can do okay at some things, and other things we can just not really care about, and that's probably the best way to approach life. So let's have a little practice with that. We're actually going to go back to your past. So I want you to either get a picture of yourself as a child, or just imagine a picture of yourself as a child. If possible, go back to one of your earliest memories. So rather than choosing yourself as like a gangly teenager, go back to when you were like this sweet little cute thing. So maybe 3 or 4. The one I think about when I think about this is I'm sitting on a tricycle. I've got like big dark circles under my eyes, and I'm wearing this cut up rag on my head because my hair didn't grow in for ages because it was curly hair, and I was like bald till I was 3, and I really wanted long hair, so I used to wear this rag like of little pieces of cloth, and it must have looked really ridiculous. But I think back to that, I think, oh, that sweet little girl and all the things she went through. So I want you to come up with that for yourself. Just think back. So once you've got that picture either in front of you or in your mind, let's just get comfy. You can take off your glasses, take off your shoes if that makes you more comfy. Just get comfy, and we're going to do a little meditation about accepting and loving ourselves, which is actually the first step in overcoming this need to control, this need to be perfect, and the worry and the stress, and to actually just be good with who we are, where we're at, and what life is bringing to us. All right, so you're closing your eyes. You're just going to take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you do it, just letting your shoulders relax. Just let your neck soften a little bit. Close your eyes if you want to. And I'm just going to ask you to picture that little boy or that little girl. And just see what they're doing. If you can, think back to that memory. What is it that you were doing? Were you at the beach, riding your bike with your family? Just think back to that time. And I just want you to feel a connection to that little child. And think about, if you were in that child's life, if you were the grown-up taking care of that child, how would you take care of them? What kind of love would you give them? What kind of compassion and care? You know, if they spilt their milk, are you going to hit them? No, you're going to just say, oops, wipe it up. All right, so that's a little child. It's not their fault if they make a mistake. They didn't do anything wrong. If things happened that were bad, to them it wasn't their fault. And that was you. I want you to just think it wasn't your fault. Whatever happened in your life, in your childhood, it wasn't your fault. You're an innocent little kid doing your best. And just give yourself some love and accept who you were then. And then I want you to imagine yourself a few years later. So we can go to the gangly teenager if we want. Think back to what clothes you were wearing then, if you like. You can imagine yourself at a party or, you know, walking home from school in your cool school uniform. And remember how hard you were trying back then and what you were going through and how you really were doing your best. You know, whatever happened, you were doing your best. And just think back to that and think, well, if you were in your own life back then, what advice would you have given to yourself? Would it be harder on yourself, work yourself to death, feel bad about what you've done and the mistakes you've made? No, well, let's hope not. So it's like, you're doing your best, you're doing good, you know, you survived teenage life and, you know, you're now an adult, so you did okay. Now I want to bring you to the present time and just to be connected to your heart. So we're going to bring our hands actually onto the body, onto our heart center. And if you'd like to, you can just keep that picture of yourself as the little kid, keep that picture of yourself as the teenager in your mind, and just kind of feel your heart. And I want you to get really quiet here. And notice if you can actually feel your heart beating. You can feel the warmth of your hands as they sit on your chest. And just connecting with your heart. Imagine how many times your heart has beat in your life. You can work it out after this if you like to. It's a lot of times. Our heart's been beating since before we were born. It was beating in your body when you were that little kid. It was beating all the way up to when you were a teenager, all the way to now. And it's gone through everything with you, everything you've felt, every breath you've taken. So just giving yourself some thanks, giving your heart some thanks for all that it's seen you through. And I just want you to feel how strong you are inside and everything that you've survived to now, just let that fade away. I just want you to feel some love and acceptance of yourself. You are doing your best. You're here, you're caring for others, you're giving. And I want you to start caring for yourself. And sometimes caring for ourselves is just taking some time to do something like this. So just to sit and be quiet, just to give ourselves some appreciation. Not trying to change anything, not trying to make anything happen. And just allowing ourselves to be. So we're just going to take a few gentle breaths here, breathing through the nose, feeling our breath, feeling the heart. And feeling that same compassion and love and care for yourself as you did when you thought about yourself as a little child. And that same sort of fondness and appreciation when you thought about yourself as a teenager. And then I want you to bring that to the present and just appreciate all the things that you do in your life and all the people you help and all the times you've gone through difficulties and you've carried on. And just actually encourage yourself and say, well done. And I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths now and just wake up and start to move. And your homework for this week, if you choose to accept some homework, is to actually just celebrate the things that do work out this week, and just take a little bit of time to say, oh yeah, that's great. And when something happens, like you do make a mistake or something isn't perfect, instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh, I could have done that better, to just be like, okay, well, that happened, and just move on. So I hope you've enjoyed this sort of meditation, and I'd encourage you to maybe try that again yourself, to just imagine yourself as a child and bring yourself into that present time. Just being able to give yourself some love. And that's really the starting point for overcoming our need to be perfect, our need to control. And it's actually a beautiful thing when we can start to love ourselves and to not need to be perfect ourselves. Then we can actually allow the other people in our life to be themselves, and we don't need to control them or have them be perfect either. And that's amazing for our relationships. So, and it's also amazing for your sleep. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next week. And if you want to check out the sleep training that I do, have a look at sleepeasyclub.com. There's a free sleep course on there where you can watch some more videos about how to improve your sleep. And I will talk to you soon.